Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. Today we're going to talk about Cardano, not really like any happenings, but what I really think about Cardano. I will say that I am cautiously optimistic about Cardano because of the Shelly release and the Gongguan release, which is going to bring smart contracts. Now, there are several points from commenters that I want to address. One is that Cardano doesn't really have a deadline, and I'm gonna explain why I think that's wrong. And the fact that you actually sell public tokens, and you know that the people buying them is expecting a rate of return, and the fact that the world doesn't wait on you as you're trying to delay your progress, that actually means that you do have a deadline and you do have timelines. You can't just work on your project forever without ever releasing anything. I'm talking about the Shelly release, of course. I know there's one of my commenters that always mentions this, that it's a protocol, it's not a business, blah blah blah. But really, the thing is, like, technology moves very fast, and if you delay things by a year, 2 years, then by the time you come out, your technology is not really going to matter that much anymore. If Cardano actually came out, if Shelly actually came out at the end of last year, it would have been very impressive. Right now, it's still relevant, but it's not as impressive as last year. There are other platforms out now. If you really look at it, like Hedera, Hashgraph just came out. There's there's Tezos, and there's other mainnets that have actually launched that offer decentralization and that also offer thousands of transactions per minute. So it's not quite as new and shiny anymore. And if you wait another 12 months to release it, then it's not going to be shiny at all, because many other projects will actually have the main features that you have. And besides that, Ethereum itself, which is like the big competitor in the space, is actually getting sharding at the beginning of this year. If your system comes out after Ethereum gets sharding and it converts itself to decentralized proof of stake, it may not actually be all that exciting, because after Ethereum gets sharding, it's going to solve its scaling problem. And remember, while your product is still in its testing phases and not gaining any clients, Ethereum is gaining all the enterprise clients. That includes banks, countries. People are issuing bonds on Ethereum. There's a real large utility case for Ethereum right now that they're making that you are not making because you haven't launched your project yet. So while in your fantasy world, this protocol doesn't have a deadline, and you can afford to spend all the time in the world to get it exactly right, the real world does not wait for you. And the longer you delay your project, especially in technology, the less special it's going to be when it comes out, and the harder it is going to be for you to actually grab clients. So I'm optimistic because I think Shelly will actually come out this year, and Gongguan will come out early next year, and that's still early enough to grab some market share of the market you're going after, whether it's finances or just projects on the mainnet. Now, I don't think Tron and EOS are really that competitors, because Tron's really targeting entertainment. And I see entertainment platforms maybe using Tron in the future. EOS, I don't really know what EOS is doing right now. Whatever they're doing, it doesn't seem to be all that successful. So I'm not worried about them. But when you're comparing Cardano to Ethereum, the thing is, you should have an advantage over them on transactions per second and decentralization. But once they actually switch to distributed proof of stake and they solve their scaling problem, I don't think you're going to be able to convince their clientele to come over to your platform, because they're already used to Ethereum. Many of them have been on Ethereum for years, and now if they don't have the scaling restriction anymore, they really don't have any reason to move. Especially if Ethereum goes to proof of stake successfully, as they should sometime next year. They say early next year, but I'm going to guess it's probably at end of Q1, beginning of Q2, or something like that. The next thing is, the argument is Cardano's not there to make me rich. All right, I can accept that fact, but you are selling random investors and putting on the open market a token. You know that even at your initial coin sale, those people who bought your coin are expecting a rate of return. Same thing with people who buy your coin on the exchange. Once you actually have a public token or a publicly investable asset on an exchange, it is no longer your academic pet project. There are certain deadlines that people actually expect you to hit that you actually set for yourself, and because technology doesn't wait for you, and you have to treat it more as a business than as your pet research project, because that just doesn't work once you have an investable asset. If you don't want to be hurried or anything, don't sell an investable asset to the public. if you are selling that investable asset to the public to raise money, those people that you're selling it to are expecting a rate of return. That's just reality. You can like argue it in your head that no, those people are all just supporting my project and they don't expect a rate of return, but you're just lying to yourself then. If that were really the case, you should really just limit the coin distribution to a group of core people that is actually really into the project. If you're selling to the general public, they expect a rate of return. So that argument that Cardano is not there to make you rich doesn't really fly. Yes, I don't really expect Cardano to make me rich, but I do expect it to maybe not exactly hit those deadlines, but not have too many delays where it would actually hurt the project's investability. Because when you sell a when you have a public token sale, or you distribute public, or you sell public tokens to whoever online, they are investing in your project, and in the real world, they're expecting a rate of return. If you don't expect that, you have to make that clear that you don't think your project is going to make a rate of return, a good ROI for the next X years. But the thing is, like, I don't remember them making a public announcement stating that. And you know that when you're selling to investors on a coin sell or on the exchange, that's really what they're expecting. I'm not talking about short term. I'm not really talking about short term, a couple of days or a couple of weeks of swing trade. I don't really care about that. But over several months or several years, you do have to have some kind of responsibility to actually like meet people's expectations that you actually set for yourself. You can't just keep delaying. Now, yes, Ethereum has delayed updates before, but they usually get it in within a couple of months. And what's more, Ethereum already has a platform out there that's onboarding a lot of enterprise businesses, and there's stuff running on the blockchain. So there's actually less for people to complain about at this point for Ethereum. And it's also like the second biggest crypto. So those things, when you actually sell an investable asset to people, they are expecting a rate of return, and that does sort of make you a business as well as an academic research project, and you actually have to take into consideration the business side of things. And you also have to take into consideration that technology does not wait for you, and if you delay your project for a long time, then your technology is just not as awesome when it actually comes out. Like I said, Cardano's not going to be as impressive now as it was a year ago. And if you wait another year, it's definitely not going to be as impressive. And that's going to make it harder for adoption to actually occur because your competitors are actually moving up on you in terms of in gaining traction, especially Ethereum. And you're going to have a much, much harder time pulling the clientele away from them. So overall, I actually like Cardano's decentralized structure. The academic way of doing things may not actually work all that well in the business world. They have published a bunch of papers. It's all peer reviewed and stuff. I'm like, in terms of Hoskinson himself, I'm not 100% confident in him, honestly. I don't really know if he actually makes a good leader for the project. And if they don't actually launch Shelley and Gongguan, at least Shelley by the early next year, then it's definitely going to fall down my list of cryptocurrencies because it's just been delayed for way too long, and other projects will have actually leapfrogged it. The thing about investing and stuff is a lot of people actually don't care if this stuff is decentralized or not. They'd like to hear it's decentralized, but investors honestly don't care as long as it makes them an ROI and there are actually enterprises actually onboarding their projects onto your blockchain. So I actually like the fact that Cardano is going to be decentralized and staying true to its mission, but I also want it to be a little more aware of the deadlines that are there, that they set for themselves, the expectations they set for themselves, and that the fact that, it's been a couple of years now since all the, it's been like 2 years since the 2017 thing, and it's been like Shelley's basically like a year late at this point, and I do want it to release and start onboarding customers and projects. Not really only for short-term gains, but for the long-term future of Cardano as well. Because I do believe in this project. I think it does have a lot of potential, but you do have to work with the realities of the real world and not just like your fantasy idealistic world. Because businesses that only work in the fantasy idealistic world, or theories that only work in the fantasy idealistic world, just don't tend to do all that well in the end. So that's my thoughts on Cardano. I do think they can get it together. I do believe they can actually release their updates. And hopefully the project will actually take off by this time, and will have taken off by this time next year, and we'll see how it does. So cautiously optimistic about Cardano, and it will, like, I will actually put it up in my coin rankings if Shelly and Gongwan launch and they start to onboard customers. So that's what I actually think about Cardano in the long run and short run. And those are just my thoughts about Cardano. All right, let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button and join me on my twice daily streams. Thank you and have a nice day.